Hi there, I'm Linda and this is Huttons Valley Permaculture. Today we are having a look at my main onion bed and deciding whether it's really ready to harvest. Well, this is my main onion bed. I do have 3 other beds of onions. One bed I've planted fairly late and I didn't thin it out, and I'm going to use these little onions for pickling onions. I'll be harvesting these ones soon. This bed has a few red onions in it, which I've already been harvesting from. And I think some of them are ready to pull today. My third additional bed is this one here, which I did plant as a bit of an experiment just with the timing of planting onions. I planted it a lot later than my main crop, just to see if I can avoid issues of the plants going to flower too early. They still have a little bit of growing to do, but at this stage, none of the onions have signs of flowers. This one flowering in the middle is actually a leek. So that leaves us to have a look at my main onion bed, which I planted out about 8 months ago. I had a really great germination rate and everything was going well when the birds decided to get in and dig it all up for the worms. I did manage to save some of the seedlings and replanted them and then added in some more seeds as well. So in this bed, there's actually different age onion plants. The 2 types I have are an Australian brown onion and a small pickling type. Well, I missed harvesting these ones small and they are now a large white onion instead. I might still try slicing and pickling some of them. Let's have a look at the rest of these onions. Are these ready to harvest? One of the ways you can tell that the onions are ready to harvest is that they start to fall over. So having a look at these guys, there's a few that have dropped over and so they're ready, but most still have a fairly thick stem, which is slower to dry out in the curing process and may not dry as well as needed to cure the onion sufficiently to store it well. But just here you can see some of these onions are starting to flower, and that's the risk with hot, cold conditions. Onions are a biennial plant, which means that they flower in their second season. But with our weird weather conditions at the moment where it's alternating hot and cold, it sends them into this flowering stage too early. And these plants that have flowered won't actually go through the curing process properly and they won't store well. So any of these I'll have to use up fairly quickly. Another issue I'm finding is many of these onions are splitting and I'm not sure what that's about. Maybe it's a sign that that will flower soon. I just don't know. So, are they ready to harvest? Some definitely are. The question is, are the rest ready to harvest? I think given that they are flowering and there's a lot splitting, and if you have a look at the plants, they are starting to yellow a bit too. They have been in the ground, some of them, for 8 months, which is a very long time. So given all of that, I think today I'm going to pull them all out of the ground. So now the fun part is pulling them out. Pretty sure many of these will cure well and I'll be able to keep them in a cool, dark place for months. The ones that don't cure will not go to waste. There are quite a number of ways to preserve them. The first way is in a delicious onion relish that I add to salads or sandwiches or on top of meats. I also will caramelise some and freeze in cubes, and I'll use these in a similar way to the relish, but will grab them when I don't want to add sugar to my meal. Another great way to preserve for future use is just to dice them up and freeze on trays, and then I'll pack them into bags with the approximate quantity you'd want to use in a recipe. Onions stored in this way are quick and easy to grab out for use in stews and soups and any cooked dish requiring diced onions. Here I go again, I've changed my mind. Some I've found that are clumped together and probably planted in the later planting haven't bulbed up at all. They'll be good to use for green onions at the moment. So I might leave some of these in the ground just for that purpose. And if some do flower and go to seed, I'll be able to harvest some of that seed for planting onions later. Gosh, that is a mega onion. I don't know how well that one will store because it has a fairly thick stem, but pretty impressive all the same. So it looks like this end is the end I'm going to be leaving. I did remember throwing in seeds and then actually not thinning them out when they germinated. So yeah, there's lots going to flower, but a lot of this I'll make use of in making some onion salt, which is a really delicious thing to include in your cooking. I'll leave a link to that video if you want to see me making some onion salt. Just a really small patch of red onions here, but I'm going to pull these out as well. I did plant them much the same time as the brown onions down the other end. Okay, that's our onion harvest. Now to get them gathered up and we'll go start the curing process. Now I know that some people will leave their onions out in the field for a few days just to dry out a bit, but very soon I've got some rain coming. So I'm going to move them to a drying frame that's under cover, out of direct sun and has good air circulation, and that's in my carport. Depending on the weather, it may take 3 weeks to a month to dry out properly before I'll tuck them away in the cupboard. It'll be interesting to see how all of these cure, and I'll be sure to give you an update in a future video. I've got this drying frame free, and hopefully it will fit all of these onions. I'll just try spacing them out as much as possible, just so each can get a bit of good airflow and improved drying. Well, that's all my onions all spread out. I have used a second smaller drying frame as well. I will be keeping an eye on them all and shuffling them around as necessary to dry them all evenly. And I'll be using any that are split straight up, and certainly some of these white ones have split a lot, so I'll probably be using those in a pickling recipe straight away. But I just thought I'd show you what the pickling onions were supposed to be like. They were supposed to be harvested at this size here, so no wonder these guys sort of split on me. I should have harvested them long ago. I hope you've enjoyed today's video. If you did, please give me a thumbs up and consider subscribing if you haven't already. Thanks so much for watching, and bye for now.